okay with me sending those calendar invites for the pictures and all that, just so you know which my personnel will come in what day?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay.
I think you're the only one that I'm sure.
Just trying to help.
We need to,
I appreciate it.
somebody, I think HR might send a reminder this week.
Yeah. Tiffany called this morning. Well, hopefully Angela answered her
That was
question because I couldn't answer it.
Shout out to me. Some people send them out, reply.
I just was having somebody part-time and everything like that, trying to get everybody scheduled on the days. And I didn't know how she was gonna have it other, so hey, these are the days these people are available, so if she needs to put Public Works on different days or whatever, because I have a bunch of people on one day or
It's
something.
just for whenever those time slots, that's what we have the room reserved for.
Oh, okay.
So you could just come up there with them.
Yeah, as long as it's in
Randomly.
those time slots, it's
Yeah.
fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just come up there randomly, you get it.
Whitney, I'm glad they brought that up. I had a good question. One of my employees works day shift in another field. They were saying, how much of the picture is going to be shown?
It won't be much.
Okay. She works for the ISD, and she said, what if I
Yeah, that was, Tiffany called this
Did
morning.
she call?
And I was like, I don't have the answers.
Right.
But I have the, I'll go grab it. I have
It's just a headshot on the IDs.
Just a
yeah,
headshot.
it won't be much.
All right, yeah. Allison said, I'm going to be at work. I'm
Right.
going to run over and take my picture from it.
Right?
I said, I don't know if the ISD is showing on the page.
Yeah, I don't think, it's not the shoulders or nothing.
Just bring another shirt out and put on over there.
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah. I was like, because the reality is she'll get one, but if it's that bad around here, she'll probably be at work.
Yeah, probably. That's for sure, no doubt.
We're supposed to be doing the workshop. It's 5 o'clock. I knew they was going to drag it out, then I'd have gone and got a drink. This should be here any minute.
But they invited us to lunch. Supper.
So we have samples. Now, it won't be this time.
Okay, that's what I
Yeah,
heard.
it'll be more samples.
Okay, she'll be fine.
Yeah, it's not showing.
Do you like those okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
it'll be like this. And depending on this, like city council meeting, fire meeting,
Who made those?
She took
Okay.
you off the,
Oh, yeah, no, we needed examples.
Yeah, I sent 6 or 8 of them over here because we have the printer.
Based on what I told.
That's why I said, I was like, who made those?
where's Public Works?
You want a special color?
Well, this one,
Well, look.
so
They have a color.
the one,
They have a color. What kind of-
the ones that we made has like the top hat for Public Works because it's water, and it has the blue line for PD. It has the red line for the fire department.
You'll have to get what I need. I just don't know.
Angela's who she asked me for them and I gave them to her. Well, that's what I'm saying. How did you print the card?
We went over.
That story, I know that story.
Oh, you came over and used our printer?
No.
That machine. Oh, I seen the camera. What day was it last week? Oh.
I'm gonna need her one day. I'm gonna come because of you.
Oh, he come.
Since you,
I don't know nothing. I just fabricated that. And you just
Yours
fall
will
for
look,
it.
yours will look different than everybody else's if that makes you feel better. You
Of
have to
course,
ask them, Amelia
because
has to.
I know because I'm only different than me.
All right, Roger.
Miss Courtney. I don't mind. I just didn't know.
Yeah, those.
There was talk about there being another printer, and I was like, I've never known there to be another printer because we bought that with emergency management money
Yeah.
for this reason. And we've tried to do this 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, we started talking about it, maybe like 2-3 months ago.
Because the ones I gave Angela have the what needs to be said on the back side of it too.
Yeah. Like I said, these are examples, because we want to see how they were gonna look. But I believe, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure she's gonna purchase separate cards, so we're not using it you guys as cards.
Okay.
I believe, don't quote me on that.
Because, well, there was talk about trying to use the access card.
Yeah, but it's gonna be too expensive.
Good.
Too expensive, and then Brandon also made a good point that if I decide to leave tomorrow, we can't reuse my card. It's
Right.
done.
Right. But we can take your information out. And
Yeah.
issue that card to somebody else. Right. Yep. Are you gonna do the hole punch, or you gonna do the sleeves?
The slip in?
Like
So,
the hole punch.
You do a hole punch that you clip through the top of it, or there's a plastic sleeve that you can slide them in?
I think it'll just be the sleeves.
Okay.
So one side will be the access card, and then the other side will just be the
Okay.
ID.
Because we have the whole bunch if you're gonna do the clips.
Okay, I'll let her know, but I'm pretty sure she's wants to put them in the sleeve with
That's
the,
fine.
I believe.
That makes sense.
It's been
I
a
was
lot
just
of back
asking.
and forth about this. It's been going on for too long.
Just trying to help. Like I said, we've been trying to do this like 5 times now.
Hello, Mayor.
So you're gonna be looking at the beat.
He in traffic all the way here.
Yeah, 3 of them.
Council workshop, January 20, 2026. We do have a quorum present. We're gonna, we have Mr. Buckley, myself, and Ms. Rachel Hall. And we also have Tommy Ramsey and one and only Lee Tipton, Ms. Juanita Lamont. Okay, and I guess I'll do the invocation tonight, and I'm gonna ask Mr. Buckley to do the pledges, but I'll start the invocation. Most gracious and heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to be here today, another opportunity of life, another opportunity to serve our city, serve our community. Father, we ask that you bless this meeting, give us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that we can make decisions and come up with ideas to better our city, better our community, Father. Father, we ask that you just continue to bless us, continue to keep us safe. Father, this is our prayer in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen, and thank God. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Okay. We'll follow up with discussion. Discussion regarding potential amendments to various ordinances of the City of Cleveland's Code of Ordinances related to noise, fireworks, livestock, and alcohol.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. We're going to get the PowerPoint pulled up for this workshop, just a few slides. But this discussion is mainly just to talk through some community concerns that are presented about how our ordinance around some of these issues regarding some nuisances and other matters, how they stack up to some neighboring communities in the region. So before you is a kind of a table kind of comparative analysis, high level, just kind of what other communities' requirements are, what our requirements are, and how they stack up against it. And so we have a slide that kind of just has an overview of some of those points, a high-level overview of how they're different and how they can be improved, or, just to guide a discussion on where we kind of see the direction of some of these issues going. Are they, good otherwise, or do we want to move the needle in a different direction? I'll kind of do this in tandem with some of the chiefs, so police chief and fire chief on respective, as it relates to noise or fireworks, and then might address livestock together, and then we'll finish with alcohol. So in terms of noise, there's kind of three camps, if you will. Generally, the code kind of looks at noise. Some of them are kind of archaic and not very prescriptive. It talks about reasonably calculated, disturbing the peace, louder than necessary. That's very obviously subjective to who's hearing the noise, who's making the complaint, the officer that is dispatched out there to address that complaint. Some other municipalities are more objective, and they measure it with the standard of decibel readings and prescribes what kind of distance that should be measured from, et cetera. And then some other, for special circumstances, or whether it's an outdoor event or a special event, there's even kind of a noise or sound amplification permit requirement that's put in some of these municipalities. So it's either a combination of 1 and 3 or just 2. But ours is kind of, there's of the cities there, and I guess what we're using for benchmark peer cities is Dayton, Liberty, Livingston, Mont Bellevue, Conroe, Willis, kind of a wide swath of communities, but kind of in the region, open to hearing of whether you think we should focus on analyze some other ones as well. But these are just kind of some benchmarks that we use for other metrics and other kind of circumstances. So, but yeah, we could move the needle and try to incorporate something that looks at decibels, be more prescriptive. We could, institute some kind of sound, outdoor amplification permit for special circumstances. We're kind of looking for y'all to some direction if you feel like this is a major issue that y'all have heard about in the community.
Complaints about, specifically about the noise.
I got some, Danny. I had some residents who contacted me, and I spoke with Mr. Tipton. One of the questions that they asked when they reached out, there was a couple different ones. Predominantly, we're talking about music that's loud at night and usually typically on the weekends. So the first question was, is there something about a cutoff time, like 10 p.m., or something where if the music is loud, that they would need to turn it off? So do we have any time frame in regards to somebody trying to go to sleep to rest for work and somebody else is on their property and the music is loud on the weekends?
Yeah, currently in our current ordinance, no. And I'll kind of defer to Chief Broussard. They do enforce some aspects of the Texas code, penal code, and those statutes. I don't know what those statutes prescribe on sound times. Our ordinance doesn't specify a time. It does for like construction, but not just for like general amplification
Okay.
noise.
Yeah, Chief, you need to come up to the
Talks about
podium.
sound from a vehicle between the hours of 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. There's to be no amplifier or musical coming from any vehicles. And if you could hear it from more than 50 feet away, that is chapter 50, verses 34 in the Code of Ordinance in the city of Cleveland currently is what we enforce.
That's with vehicles. That's not just with someone and music in their backyard and
Right.
residence. Yeah.
No.
Okay. But many of our neighboring jurisdictions, it looks like many of them follow a 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. time frame, and so maybe that's what the residents were referring to.
The Texas Penal Code, Chapter 4201, talks about disorderly conduct, which Emilio was speaking of. There's a 0.85 decibel, which is too loud. A lot of cities, if you might notice or recognize in the handouts, they are 65 and 68, which ours, we go off the state law, which is 0.85 with the decimal meter reading, which is pretty loud, and even for people verbally just talking in the next yard over. But that could be something we could look at trying to enhance, making it comparable to other cities that have the 65 or 70. But the penal code covers any unreasonable noise for persons of normal sensibility.
Okay. And do we have that technology? Do we have that decibels reader?
We do have a decimal reader, yes. Yes. Right. And that sometimes contemplates if there's what we call noise pollution, wind noises and things like that, so we have to consider those things. But the noise, their decimal meters are calibrated to certain levels.
So I do have a comment on it. If we do that, what about the guy that works night shift that decides that he's trying to sleep and someone goes and cranks up their lawnmower? And that's over 60 to 80 decibels that's going next door to him.
Right.
Or he decides to blare music during the day.
There is an ordinance that covers that under chapter 50, verse 32, that talks about any automobiles or motorcycles or anything that is in a state of unrepairability or makes loud noises such as spinning or squealing tires, grinding, grating, or rattling. There is an ordinance for that as well, which we could enforce if that became an issue. And we have had that before where mechanics lived next to people that were night workers or slept in the daytime hours.
So it sounds, if I'm understanding correctly, there's a lot to do with car noise, and especially like racing, which used to be a problem at nighttime in town. But I can say that of the issues, the multiple issues, it was always loud music, and again, mostly on the weekend. So they're just talking about loud music till 1, 2 a.m., whatever's going on. So what is reasonable for the good of the community, similar to other jurisdictions? Is it a decibel reading? Is it a time frame? What can we do to try to help, neighbors be neighborly, I guess?
Typically, we receive a call, we will respond regardless of the noise, because there are people that work different hours and people that have to get up the next morning. We will encourage them the first time a warning to reduce the music. And if it's after 10, between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m., then they're probably going to receive some form of a citation the second time, 11 p.m. and 7 p.m. But if it's unreasonable and people can hear and it's rattling in the windows and we go through those phases. Several years back, there was a lot of the cars with the loud music and amplifiers, and then it went away for a little bit. Now I'm starting to see a little bit more of it coming and gone with this generation, I would say. But we normally try to catch those cars that are driving by with it's 50 feet or more. We will pull them over, and I think the ordinance requires, or state law requires, that we give a warning the first time under 4201, and then the second time we can enforce state law.
Okay, thank you. And like I said, again, with the residents that talked to me, it was all specifically about people on their properties and loud music from their backyards or something on their properties, specifically
We'll still
on
love to
weekends
go
and
and
nights. Yeah.
encourage them to turn it down. We would love to,
Yeah.
if it's too loud.
One of the residents who called did say that, that you were very helpful when, in the department, and someone did go out on one case where individuals turned it down, but then once the officer left the scene, they turned it right back up louder, which is nothing that an officer can stop. I understand that, but that's why we're saying, like, they wanted to know, like, what are the ordinance in place as far as when they're supposed to shut it off type of thing.
Sure. 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., there's not supposed to be any loud music. All righty, thank you.
And Lee brought up a point earlier today, is some nuances that we can adopt some requirements for kind of general noise decibels, but then you have to, the new concern is the bass, and how that really might not register as a decibel, and so you have to craft some language to address how do you issue citations or address or enforce objectively bass, because that sometimes can be more impactful than just the music itself.
That's reasonable, but it does look like this is definitely something that local municipalities run into, because so many of them have ordinances in place, and it needs to be addressed in some capacity. So, thank you.
Okay, we'll go on to the next slide, which I think deals with fireworks. I think there's a lot of agreement on this, that generally in the region it's banned. Fireworks are just banned, sell, store, distribute, travel through the city with them, discharging them. It does permit public displays that are permitted generally, or some type of special event. State law deals with this, but I think we were discussing today that we probably had something adopted via ordinance, but it's not really codified in the actual code of ordinances in some of the existing sections. So that's something we could do to be more prescriptive, to help people find that more easily. We adopt the 2015 fire code. It does have provisions on that. If without a local amendment, then everything that I mentioned, it's just outright prohibited. So I don't know if it's really an issue with what we have adopted, or if it's more of an enforcement thing that people in the community have issues with, or if y'all have heard concerns about that generally.
I know I did, but it was not necessarily about the ordinance, because I know y'all pushed out, I believe, a video, and it actually reached quite a few people in regards to fireworks being banned. And that's when I got some questions about when people are seeing neighbors or hearing neighbors popping fireworks, that they're asking, why do they have fireworks if they're banned? So I think it's more of an enforcement and what that looks like. Is it all fireworks? Is it aerial fireworks? So people knew, but then they also heard the fireworks going on, and they're like, why do we have this if it's not being enforced?
Right.
And I don't know how much it was enforced. That's just questions that came up.
I would say,
Yeah.
Rachel, many times, that the officers could be in the area and make the block and not hear any fireworks. By the time they get around the corner, there's fireworks, and they go back to the location, all they see is smoke. There's very few times that they ever catch individuals that are actually possessing them or discharging them at the time. But we do respond to all fireworks calls, so anyone that receive or observe someone, they can swear out an affidavit and file charges if they wish, according to the law. And if it's their neighbor, and some people are a little bit reluctant to do that for fear of retaliation, but we would encourage them to continue to call, or if there's a second call, maybe we can get more specific about the address where it is taking place.
So a good thing for the residents to know is if it is a nuisance that is truly bothersome to them, they can come and fill something out and file something if an officer can't catch them in the act. They can come do
They
the
can be a
affidavit.
witness and fill out an affidavit. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
sounds like a good thing to share with them.
Yes,
Thank you.
ma'am. Okay.
Chief, anything on this issue? Is there any other concerns on fireworks regulations?
It's all fireworks, correct?
Correct.
Just want to make sure.
Are streamers good?
I was talking about Black Cats, really. No, I know during New Year's, they had to be making rounds because I heard them going off and then all of a sudden they got quiet for a good while. So I know the cops were out and about.
Because when I was a little kid, and Chief was right there with me, we would do the fireworks, and if we see the police coming, we'd all run. But times have changed, though. You know, things are it's a lot more danger now than back then. But back then, popping fireworks was, you know, that was like a way of life in small town Cleveland, Texas, you know. But we just have to do the best we can to make people aware. I think the video that Chief and the firemen put out, I think that did a lot to kind of slow some of it down. Okay.
Yes. Good job to Courtney helping produce that,
Okay.
along with the PD and the fire department. So
Okay.
glad that the message got out there. Moving on to alcohol consumption in public areas and on streets and sidewalks and rights of ways. This is mainly not to take issue with any part of the existing alcohol ordinance. I think it functions as intended. This is to expand it to have a carve out for specifically for like special events and downtown programming. Most recently, we hosted our inaugural Logjam Fest, and so we incorporated a beer garden element into that with the assistance of the chamber. They led that, the obtaining the permit and everything for that. That had to be contained on private property, and it probably impacted the performance of beer sales because people can't take it and go out to enjoy the other festivities. They have to consume it in the fenced-off beer garden. So I think, generally getting y'all's direction to see if maybe there's appetite to expand it for a carve-out for a downtown or city-sponsored event to allow people to basically openly consume that in the city street. Other cities have conditions where, it's contained, there's security, there's fencing, other kind of controls and parameters for such a thing, and we would look to incorporate similar requirements, but no use in that if you're just not interested in having something like that.
I'm good with that as long as we have secret outlets closed off. So if someone does try to leave, you have your security. They can see everyone walking through each barricade. If someone tries to leave with it, they got to dump it at the trash can or finish it before they go out the fence.
Right.
Because I know just like at Logjam Fest, you got a couple back ways you can get out of there, so.
Yes, and I think we'll have a tighter area next year. It won't be as expansive, but we'll get into planning that soon. Okay.
Also with downtown on the, with the movie theater, or the, I don't know what you want to call it, concert venue area, that sidewalk. I mean, they want to get a permanent fence off to be able to walk out there when they have their shows.
So my question, Emilio, just for my own clarification, are we talking about wanting an ordinance that will allow for individuals to just walk the right-of-ways, the sidewalks, the streets? Or we want an ordinance that says we would like for you to stay within this gated area like a beer garden? Which direction are you asking if we're wanting to go?
So some municipalities state you get a permit, and the permit will kind of define all of that. Some say if it's a city-sponsored function, then it's permitted with some conditions, and I think there's some of that nuance in the tables, but I think we would look to y'all for some direction on this, but I think we would be kind of somewhere where we want to contain the area. We don't want to just have, open container, this isn't Bourbon Street or Sixth Street, like, we want to define it to a specific area, whether that's, going to be specified in the ordinance, or if that's just, related to the actual event footprint. I don't know, Julius or Mr. Buckley, if you were saying you're concerned about the theater, or you would want that to be an option for them?
Say for them to have that just in
Okay.
their little, what they have, if, say, someone wants to go out and smoke and they have a drink with them, they don't have to leave it inside, they can just walk right there to that open area, do what they want to do, and then go right back in.
So previously, in the last city I was in, they had that ordinance for downtown, so they designated a specific area that
Okay.
would be allotted. And there were some bars downtown, so they can't block the sidewalk, but if they had a portion off to it, they could rope that off, and they would allow them to come in and out of that.
Okay.
Is that, Mr. Tipton, is that new? Because I haven't been to the theater recently. When it was previously open, I went, and there wasn't anything allowed outside. So is it allowed?
No, we don't have an ordinance
Yeah,
for it.
it's currently not like that. He was just asking if they would be able to do that.
Okay.
And
He was
the
just
previous city,
explaining
it was
con
allowed
roads.
because the city designated downtown, specifically that area for events.
Your previous city.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, sorry, thank you, okay, gotcha. All right, so we're direction of either a designated area in town and/or just case-by-case basis with a event permit, is that accurate?
Right, yeah, we can prepare, draft ordinance and kind of look at the difference more specifically. I guess we're just looking to narrow that, or can we define that right now, or do you want to see both options side by side?
I mean, provide as much information as possible. It's something that we can get feedback from residents also over the coming weeks and months, especially with the other thing coming up on the ballot. I have a personal opinion, but I'm just one opinion, so. But yeah, as much information as far as side-by-side comparisons would be valuable.
Okay,
I would prefer, we're going to lean towards more designating an area specifically like downtown for major events. We don't want to necessarily offer a permit to a citizen to have a block party, essentially, I guess, if that's kind of where we're going with this. Because the responsibility of making sure everybody's safe is a big concern with this, and that's why I don't think we would necessarily leave it out for permitting. It would be just more designated for large-scale events that we plan to host in the city.
okay. I think we'll pursue that direction, unless there's any objections to that.
We currently do block party permits, don't we?
We do special event and parade permits, but I don't think they address with alcohol. Chief?
Anyone that has alcohol has to get a permit from the city secretary, right? They're serving alcohol, they have to get a.
Well, yeah, that's mainly on-premise consumption for like a establishment. I guess this would be more just for events like in the street, like in the public rights of way.
Some of them have a cul-de-sac parties, what they're asking, if they have to have like a permit to do alcohol at a party in amongst their houses.
If you're making any type of profit or from it, you must have a license server. It has to go through ABC, and it must put in a permit to the city secretary and be approved, signed off by the chief, usually the sheriff himself, and but it has to go through TABC for a server's license.
But if I can answer that, they shouldn't be, because that's why we didn't, is because it's plainly prohibited in our ordinance right now. You can't consume in the street, sidewalk, or public right of way.
That makes sense, because I've been, so I know that they came in and they filed, this was again years ago, but they had things inside, but outside, there was not anything allowed outside of the premises, so, outdoors. So I was just a little curious of what that looked like, but I thought that someone else came in, and this is again a couple years ago, so I know things can change, or I don't remember it all, but they came in because like they wanted to offer like a beer ticket, like you can go to this event and get like 2 beer tickets, but I didn't know if there's maybe a beer garden or what was going on. But yeah, more information, thank you, would be great.
Okay, we'll prepare that. The final one.
Just to add to that, you can't say you're gonna buy a food plate or fish plate from me, and then I'm gonna give you some alcohol. That's also illegal to do as well, so you have to have a permit.
Like samples or something like that? Yeah. And then, the last and final issue is kind of regarding livestock and animals, regulation. That has a lot of variation. Some cities have really detailed ordinances on this, some don't. Mainly, when you get into it, those that do allow it, you have to have a certain minimum acreage. There's some distancing requirements where, pens should be established, some zoning considerations in some ordinances. But it just varies, and I don't know if there's a specific concern that we're trying to address.
What about horses?
Yeah, that would fall under livestock. Some city ordinances carve out
Okay, what
horses
does-
specifically.
What does ours specifically say about horses in the city limits, or cows, pigs?
No pigs are allowed.
Yes, swine
Okay.
prohibited.
Horses, cows, guineas, goats must be 100 feet from the nearest living quarter or dining area of any home that is.
Got to be 100 feet.
specified here.
Okay, now that's helpful,
100 feet.
because I got one of those coming up I'm gonna have to deal with, so 100 feet from somebody's property, okay.
And it's also, there's a minimum area for the actual pen itself,
Yeah.
2,500 square feet.
Okay. Thank you.
And I got some feedback from residents also. They had asked, because they were curious with some of our new development, that when there's some newer homes built, but then like right behind it, where it was a established part of the neighborhood, there's cows and horses and, kind of wandering and stuff. So they did ask specifically about cows and horses, or can they be on properties, or like they wanted information about it. But then also specifically chickens. Are you allowed to have chickens? And is there a certain minimum requirement of the size of your yard? How many chickens can you have? And I think that's just more about eggs and stuff.
Right. The distancing requirements are kind of written to where like a suburban style lot is probably not going to be allowed to have a pen or an enclosure, given it's 100 feet from where anyone habitates, dwells, sleeps, eats. So it's probably going to be kind of hard to meet that on a regular lot. It's really more for, it would probably be more permitted broadly in like a more estate kind of context. But yes, I think it kind of eliminates the more suburban stuff. Now, if something was there before, it doesn't really address roaming. Now, running at large, it does prohibit, our ordinance prohibits, but if there's animal livestock on private property that's roaming, ours mainly deals with the pen and where the enclosure for those animals. And if it's something that predates the development, well, they can't retroactively enforce the pen setback on the farm or the, whatever ranch that was already existing.
Okay. Is there a minimum number of acres per cattle? And then the other question just specifically is, can residents have backyard chickens?
They must be cooped or penned.
Is that including the 100-foot?
The owner would have to also clean to make sure the owner's not there.
Right. The
Does that
owners can't be
100-foot
offensive.
guideline apply?
It would for that pen.
The property owners, or whether coops or pens are at, it's their chickens or fowl, then it doesn't include. Yeah, on their property,
Okay.
but not someone else's. It's within 100 feet of the neighbors.
So if they have a lot that's only 60 feet wide, they cannot have chickens. Is that correct? Am I understanding correctly? If it's a newer, smaller lot?
I would say the ordinance is kind of constructed to eliminate those circumstances.
Okay. And then those who have larger lots, because we do have some larger lots in more established parts of the town, the city limits, do they have a restriction on the number of chickens?
I don't think it's that prescriptive.
Okay.
Dogs, but not chickens.
Okay.
Only 4 little dogs.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I think that's concludes what we had to discuss for the workshop. Turn this mic on.
Regular meeting at 6. So, meeting adjourned. Workshop adjourned. Gotta find my